Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Brace for Impact. I am Benikage. Parks is on the far left side, and in the middle, we've got a special guest for this episode 2. It's the wonderful Megs, ATK's greatest, South Africa's greatest soldier. It is Megs from ATK. Welcome along, Megs.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I would like to
Thank
say
you for
she also stays up ridiculously late to watch NA stuff sometimes, which is
True.
why do you do that to yourself? I don't know.
I'm a
Megs is,
dedicated fan. What can I say?
I was gonna say you're like the greatest fan for like every player in NA because it doesn't matter who's playing. You're just like, let's go, and then you're just supporting
Yeah,
somebody in the chat.
true.
It's great. So the last episode, Parks, we were kind of at like a decent spot. I think we were about 2 weeks into the Impact League,
Yep.
if I remember correctly. Now, or maybe it was right at the halfway point, I think, actually. So now we've had a few more games. We've had a few more interesting results. And we're 5 weeks in. Where would you like to start? Would you like to start EU, South America, North America?
Let's let our guest decide. How about that?
Okay, that's fair. Thanks.
Well, I start with my favorite region, NA.
Okay.
The region I always watch.
Perfect.
The meme region.
The
The
meme
meme
region.
region.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
The one that, according to Benny, is already done and dusted in terms
That's correct.
of everything being done. You might want to lead us off then. We're just going to start off with Group A. Sealed Your Red, Valkyries, Saints, Reversal. Where are they sitting records-wise?
Well, CLG Red already won the group. They tied it up on a forfeit win, right, versus Reversal, who are having roster issues. And the Valkyries are in second place currently 3-2. Saints are 2-3. Actually, the Valkyries, that was a pretty good series. They just 2-0'd the Saints 16-6, 16-8. The first time around, it was a really good series.
Yeah.
There was a double overtime mixed in there. Not so much this time, but pretty straightforward. But the important thing to note with Saints being 2-3 is that the tiebreaker for records is map difference, right? So map difference for the Saints is -3, and map difference for the Valkyries is +3. So even if the two play, like even if Valkyries lose 0-2 and Saints win 2-0, right? The Saints will still finish at -1. Valkyries will still finish at +1. So even if they finish on a 3-3 record, despite the fact that Liquipedia hasn't booked them in, say, to the second playoff spot, like there's no way that they lose the tiebreaker. So the Valkyries are in the second spot no matter what. And that means that they're going to have to play EG, who have already won Group B. But yeah, we had some wins. Valkyries beat Reversal 2-0. That was another good series, 16-13, 16-10. CLG made quick work of Saints, losing only 9 rounds. And then obviously the forfeit win, Valkyries 16-6, 16-8, like I said, over the Saints. So the final matches here in Group A are all dead rubbers. I mean,
That
literally
expression.
nobody can change. But that's the name of it. That's the actual term. Okay, listen. Chat.
Chat?
Everybody, right?
Oh, no.
Chat, comment section on YouTube, Megs, Parks. There's a tennis tournament called the Davis Cup, okay? I don't know if you know this or not, right? This is where it comes from, okay? And in that you send 4 people to represent your country, right? And you play another country in tennis, right? Person 1 plays person 2 in a singles match. Person 2 plays person 1 in a singles match. That's day 1. Day 2 is doubles, and day 3, the 2 people that didn't play each other on the first day swap and play each other, right? So what happens is it's a best of 5 tennis matches. Well, by day 2, if you've won both singles on day 1 and you win the doubles match day 2, day 3, there's nobody. There's nothing to play
There's your
for.
rubber.
You're already, so they play the games anyway because obviously fans buy tickets.
Yeah.
But the term for them is called dead rubbers. So because obviously you get a rubber match,
Yeah.
right? So, but if the rubber match doesn't mean anything, it's just called a dead rubber. I don't
All
know
right.
why I've had to explain that, right? Parks, why have you made it all awkward? Okay. That's the actual term, okay?
Listen. Okay. Well, we can. Group B. You talked about EG already locking up their spot here. Please send box.
Yeah.
I think at this point have locked it up as well because they're sitting 3-2.
That's correct.
Echo and Hot Flash both sitting 1-4. That was an interesting one. This interestingly enough, because the GoTV was broken that night, so neither of us. Well, you were busy, so I wasn't even able to cast it myself, and Echo ended up getting 2-0'd. So that I guess they both will end up 1-5. I don't see them either of them. Well, yeah, they'll both end up 1-5 probably because they're playing against EG and the box respectively because they already played each other in the second half there. So Police and Box will be going up against CLG Red to go to Yokaping, and EG, like you said, will be going up against Valkyries. That's the same top four that we had last season, believe it or not.
Right, right. So at this point, this is, I guess, the point I want to bring Megs in actually, because this is the only region that's not like, or that's already been decided. Everything's already decided. Playoff matches are already decided. Nothing can happen in group. I mean, the only thing that hasn't been decided is who finishes third, fourth in Group B. That's the only thing that hasn't been decided. So, knowing what we've seen between the four teams that haven't made it, Saints, Reversal, and not so much Reversal, but Saints, Echo, Hot Flash. What do you like with what you've seen in North America from these teams that really have only been created since the start of this Impact circuit?
I feel like from the games that I've watched, all these teams that are like newly formed are already like so competitive against each other, and it makes the games to like watch. It makes it really good and really entertaining. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the skill gap, the skill gap between them is like not as big as you would think. So it's still like pretty tough competition between them.
And you're talking about just the teams like
In the
that have
bottom
been made,
half.
not necessarily CLG, right? The skill gap is, I think, still
Yeah,
pretty.
well, yeah, that's CLG. You can't really compare them.
I mean, I feel part of me feels like, just further on that point, right? Part of me feels like this skill, you don't want to, like, I don't want to compare a Hot Flash to CLG, right? Because I think I agree with you. I think the skill gap there is really big, but then also like I've seen EG playing pretty close on a few maps. So like it's like, is the skill gap between CLG and the rest of the field shrinking? Is it just CLG and EG where that skill gap is shrinking? Or how do you, like, going forward, what can be the expectation for competition next year, assuming we get a new circuit? Of course, that hasn't been announced yet. But assuming that we get a new circuit, like, what is the expectation for these teams going forward?
I feel like if we take into consideration like all the other regions as well, these top teams, now that the more female teams are being picked up by big orgs and given the coaching and the analyst and everything that they need, the skill gaps have gotten a lot closer to like each other. So I feel next year, if the female teams keep on getting these opportunities to actually like be worked on and improve, they can definitely give one of these top teams a run for their money.
Is that happening in South Africa then as well? Because I know earlier today with that Cash Cup, you guys didn't win, and is that on the team itself? There's no easy way to say that. You guys
didn't have to
didn't
go straight into it.
You're calling me out like that.
I don't know how to say it any other way than hey, you lost. Is that based on the other teams catching up to HCK?
I'm not sure. From our perspective, it feels a lot like because of like load shedding and everything, we haven't had a cash cup or any tournament against any female teams like in quite a while. So now that this being the first one, I feel like we were kind of like shaken up a bit playing against them again and like feeling that like excitement from competing and stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, we played terrible CS today, but it's nothing we can't fix for the qualifiers next week.
So you could say there was definitely a lot of rust probably coming off the old transformer there.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because it actually was like over. I think I mentioned it on the stream too. It was like over a month. I want to say it was like it was over a month since the last Cash Cup. Actually, I have it up here. One second. Yeah, the last Cash Cup prior to today's was on August 13th. So almost 2 months, almost 2 full months since the last Cash Cup. There were two in between, but nobody signed up for them, and I just think they weren't advertised very well, and like they were just moved around, and just wasn't particularly very good in terms of scheduling, I think. But yeah, look, I think this is a team, or at least Milk had told me in the chat too, that the I guess they're now White Rabbit Amaryllis team is like they're the Reace team that have won 4 previous Cash Cups as well. So they are like the other competitive team in in South Africa.
Yeah.
Whereas like I wouldn't put that on like VYBN to be at that level yet, or any of the other organizations like Illicit if they're still around. I don't even know if they're still around, but like I wouldn't put them on that level either, because you guys played in Y'all played in intermediate this season, correct? Or was it main?
Intermediate.
That's right. So, and none of the other women's teams were in intermediate.
Yeah.
So there is I think a step to get to ATK, to get to y'all in South Africa.
For sure.
So, for the sake of Megs, I hope the gap doesn't shrink. There you go. But,
If it does shrink, we'll just work harder to make it bigger again. So
yeah,
that's
there
fine.
you go.
there you go. That's what I love to hear. But that's North America done and dusted for the most part, right? In the EU Impact League, I don't think there's a point of really talking any further about it because everything's already
No.
decided. The playoffs,
done.
CLG versus. I mean, we could do a preview of the playoffs if you want to, Parks. I think
there's no need to do a preview yet. We still got a few more weeks on that, and you kind of know what's gonna happen. I feel like it's not too harsh on them, but
oh, by all means, if I have to be the harsh one, I definitely will.
You saw what I just did, so I did not mince words, except when it came to actually explaining what I meant.
The gap between harshness of Parks and I is a gap that will never.
No, there's another skill gap right there. Speaking of America, if you want to look at South America, because that's one of the other areas that we kind of invest our time into, with streaming at least. Group A, Furia 5-0, they've clinched. And then W7M Esports in second, barely holding on to that spot because Black Dragons FE are 2-3.
That's correct. And the it's not like North America here, where the map difference is so wide. Like, the interesting thing for this group, because Parabellum's 0-5, by the way, they're the other team in the group. They're done and dusted. But not to sound like I'm blowing them off. I'm sorry. Just they are absolutely, they're gonna, like, they can't finish anything but bottom of the table. But W7M and Black Dragons have to play each other last week of the season. So that's going to be a very, very good series. And the thing is, too, the map difference is so tight that it doesn't matter if it's a 2-0 or if it's 2-1. It's winning you're in. Like,
Right.
that's the importance of that series now, is that it's going to be winning you're in. So W7M been playing pretty decent Counter-Strike, actually. They look pretty good. It's so weird. Like, South America is just such an odd region in the sense that there's so many great teams, but because the competition is so tight and they play each other all the damn time, W7M will look great in, like, the Impact League, and then they'll go into, like, Masters Femenina and they'll just look terrible. And it's just like, what? I thought this team was great. They just dominated Impact League for 6 weeks and beat everybody in the group but Furia. Like, that's like Independence made a roster change and they took a 4th place finish on LAN and they've looked nowhere close in Impact League.
Yeah, they're 0-5 as well in the group. That's you can't. I mean, it's a whole different, like you said, it's a whole different beast in South America just because of the amount of support they've already set themselves up with. I mean, that's a huge thing as well when it comes to like the major cycle, for example. There's so many teams in the RMR that are Brazilian teams, and a lot of them aren't making it. But because there's just a massive amount of them, it doesn't really matter. It's all just get to Rio, get to Rio, get to Rio. So, but no, and then you look at Group B. I think Group B is already settled.
Well,
for esports and MIBR.
Yeah, it's settled for who's going to make playoffs, but it's not settled who's the number 1 seed.
That's true.
So that's a big. Everybody, we had this first episode. We named it "To Be or Not to Be," Megs, because nobody wants to be number 2 in Group B in any of these regions. Okay,
no, you don't.
So the story's still the same, I think, this week with South America at least, right? Like, nobody wants to play Furia in the playoffs. I'm gonna be real. Olga's just unreal right now.
Yeah.
I mean, tournament after tournament, she's just been the best player. So,
I believe it was Newt. Sorry, I believe it was Newt. Shout out to him, who did like some stats looking and said, "Hey, Olga is actually, guys, insane. Be careful, please."
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
So here's the thing, because I know you do watch a little bit of South America as well, Meg. At least that's.
I watch a bit of everything.
Yeah.
You just follows Benikage.
True.
Female sports. There you go. There's the shout out.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
My attempts to try and stay somewhat humble are just absolutely being shattered right now by Parks.
Yeah.
My question is, who do you like coming out of Group B as the top seed? I'm just going to put you on the spot, Megs. B4 or MIBR?
I think MIBR actually.
Okay.
I would love for them to get the top seed in that group.
Any reason why?
Not really.
Okay.
I just
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let
Uh,
me put it this way, right? Who would you rather play more against on LAN? Would it be B4? Would it be MIBR? I think that's the big question.
That's actually a good considering
Oh
point.
god. Well, I feel like all of those South American teams are equally scary, but I feel like from the games that I've watched, I would really like to play against MIVR. I think that would be a really fun game.
That'd be something.
I'm not gonna disagree, but I'm a Junger fan, so I'm just gonna say let's go B4. Okay. The Benny bias is back.
Yeah, the Benny bias never
The Benny
left, don't
bias
worry.
is back, and it's let's go B4. Okay. So,
All right.
it's just a
Yeah.
one quick note too on that is that it's one of these things where it's like it's almost like we compared it to Please Send Box and EG previously, where it was like Box
Yeah.
were winning every series almost, but then the one series that mattered more important than anything else, Please Send or EG won back when they were Please Send Help. So now for me, it's like I feel like that's the story's been weird because it was like MIBR was winning the series mainly over B4, you know, especially going back to like the LAN at Masters Feminine and whatnot. But if you look at the series recently, B4's had the number. So they look really good with the addition of Poppins. Like there's a chance that Poppins could be at Yokaping, and she's just come into the side 2-3 months ago. And you have this young 16-year-old talent that's going to be the next big thing in South America. And go into a land like within a handful of months of joining this B4 side. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Okay, so then that just leaves us with EU if we want to quickly shuffle our way through.
I'm sad, man. Don't do this to
Why are
me.
you sad?
I'm sad. Why am I sad?
Yeah,
Because I
why?
wanted to see Astralis make the I want to see Astralis at the land, man. Astralis have been denied the RMR and the Impact League now. I'm like, bruh.
Too. No, well, that's Group B. Navi, Javelins, and Big Akipa are currently sitting in first and second. Actually, it's very interesting. Big Akipa are 2 and 3. So are most valuable players. Both of them are sitting 2 and 3. So I think it's whoever wins their next match between the two. I'm gonna push on here. Who are they playing? Don't tell me they're playing each other. They are not. Thank goodness.
No.
Big,
because the big and MVP just played each other week 5 and MVP won.
yeah. So
and that was a big win.
Yeah, well, it's Big versus Navi Javelins, and it's MVP versus Astralis. I think MVP are gonna clinch, unless Astralis pulls something out of their hat and say, "Well, we didn't qualify, but we screwed your chance to qualify." So
here's the crazy thing about Group B and EU is that Astralis actually aren't mathematically eliminated. So if
my
Big
God.
Akipa lose, right,
Yeah.
0-2, and Astralis win, right, it'll go to the second tiebreaker, which is round difference.
Right.
And because everybody will be on, like Astralis and Big Akipa will both be on -3 for maps. So then Astralis has to make up the round difference, which they're 42 rounds behind right now. That's quite a lot. But you could have a 2 and 3 team hypothetically, or 2 and 4 team hypothetically clinch a playoff spot, which is kind of nuts. Like it's stupidly nuts.
They get the chance to play. They get the chance to play Nigma. That's basically, congrats. You went 2 and 4. You're one of the. You won the tiebreaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Have fun facing Nigma. Great job, guys.
I can't even begin, and Megs, I'm sure you might be able to tell, but I can't even begin to feel like what it's like to play against Nigma on LAN. Like
it's genuinely one of the scariest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
Really?
It is horrifying loading into that server, seeing like big names like Anna and Volga. Like you spawn, you go to where you need to be on the map, and you're just dead.
you're just like, guys, I did my job, and then you're just like,
Yeah.
I did it.
Your job is getting to your spot.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, literally.
so wow.
You come in and you just say, that was a round.
Well,
Good job, guys.
We were very, very proud of ourselves for getting one singular round.
You know what? That's the proud point right
We
there.
felt like we won.
You did. You basically did. Not many teams can get around.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, Enigma pretty much steamed everybody. I got to be honest. I think Fury is the only team they didn't steam, and that was at the Dallas LAN. So, yeah, it was. They're. It doesn't matter who finishes second in the group, almost, right? But it's just, I think it's crazy the fact that MVP basically bailed out Astralis with the win over Biggie Keep, because if Biggie Keep had won, they would have been both.
Yeah.
They would have had 2 teams at 1 and 4. Biggie Keep are locked in, but Biggie Keep and they got to play Navi, so it's like, I don't know if that one. Group A though, Nigma already clinched, Tropic already out. No Fear 5 and Ninja will play. Actually, Ninjas play Entropic, who Ninjas are 2 and 3, they're in third, and No Fear 5 play Nigma, who are No Fear 5 are 3 and 2. No Fear 5 actually took a map off Nigma Galaxy in overtime.
Wow.
By the way.
Okay, that's big news.
Yeah, that was Dust 2. That was week 3. That was a really close series. The Inferno was 28 rounds, so that was actually a pretty tight series. So I'm not going to write No Fear 5 off, actually, because I think they're playing some excellent Counter-Strike. But certainly you would think Nigma are still going to be favored, and there's an opportunity for Ninjas maybe to sneak in. So I'm going to go back to the regular season standings and look at map difference, because basically No Fear 5 needs to get 0-2'd,
Yeah.
and Ninjas need to win 0-2. And then
Then there's the switch.
Yeah, then Ninjas will actually finish second. So there's an opportunity Ninjas do get to the playoff spot. And you wouldn't mind finishing second in this group, just making playoffs, having a go at Navi. Certainly you'd think it's a possibility. So any favorites for who you want to see come out of the group, Meg? I gotta ask.
Well, Nigma's definitely one of them.
I meant as a who's left and not like, who do you want to see in the playoffs? Like,
I'm not really sure. I think the region that I haven't kept up with like a lot is EU. So I'm not really sure who I really want to go through and stuff.
Isn't
that's
it kind
really
of
weird
funny?
because they're the same time zone. So
I know, but
She's
my
playing.
sleeping schedule is pretty much on NA time zone.
Yeah, there you go.
Meg's like, I've been called out by both casters now. What the hell?
I just wanna say something here. If NIP don't qualify and Astralis don't qualify for playoffs, it'd be kind of funny that both those teams got picked up just to get grouped. It's a theme of these organizations, it seems.
It's really tough because there's I don't know. Look,
I think it's funny. I just think it's funny.
It's funny, but it's difficult because like Russian Counter-Strike and the amount of Russian players in Counter-Strike, Russian women players in Counter-Strike is pretty high. Like if you look at these cash cups that EU's having, you have like 6 or 7 like all Russian teams that are signing up for these cash cups. No organization, and not rightfully so in terms of the players, but rightfully so in terms of like we understand why.
Yeah, there's no
organization's going to pick up a Russian team, right? So at least not in the current climate.
God no.
So, but Russian Counter-Strike has always been very strong in the women's scene. I mean, you go back. I mean, it's always been particularly really strong. So these teams that have been playing for a while, the No Fear 5s, the MVPs, things like that. Some of these players have been playing with their cores for 2-3 years. They're going to be the best teams in Europe, and there's an opportunity that you have 2 Russian teams in the playoffs, both as the second seeds in the groups, because that's just historically that's how good they are, and it's tough because it's like I feel so great that NIP and Astralis have come into the scene. Like this is exactly what the scene's needed. But yeah, it's tough because I mean, hypothetically, you're looking at these teams going, No Fear 5 is probably the best team you can sign. That's not signed, but for obvious reasons, you don't want to sign them.
Yeah.
So
they got grouped. I laugh. I am simple man, and a kind of cutthroatness there. Get grouped.
That's
Did you see the
Canadian.
jokes?
That's
no, you saw the jokes about.
Like,
sorry, I gotta come back to the RMR. You saw the jokes about nouns. There was a joke from Ryan. He's like, yeah. Well, it ended up being a curse because he said it before they won the first map. But he's like, Nouns Esport went from not even from getting grouped at Philadelphia to now going 1-0 up against Imperial, and then they lost the map. So we'll blame Ryan on that one. But they were doing really well. So I fully on board with them getting grouped in Philadelphia and still somehow being better than Imperial.
Well, any further comments on EU Impact from anybody?
No, congrats to Enigma
No?
for qualifying for Jokoping.
There you go. Okay. Fair enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm looking forward to more in terms of qualifying is the Open Cups, which we mentioned a little bit about because
Yes.
somebody in this room is going to be playing in one of those qualifiers, and it ain't me and it ain't Benny.
It might be me.
It might be me.
It might be Megs. But
Checking
let's start
schedule.
there, right? Let's start with South Africa and the qualifier. First off, just a really easy question. How many teams do you think there are going to be in the qualifier?
At the moment, the 3 active teams I know are definitely going to sign up, and I feel like a lot of the what do you call it, like the retired players, a lot of them are starting to form teams and asking around for who wants to play for, even just for fun. So I feel like this, I don't know, maybe 8, 7 teams like that. It's not a lot, but that's
Really?
a lot for
Right.
our region. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I
that
was
is
gonna say that is a
7 or 8.
lot.
7 or 8 is a lot considering like at least from my last checking on the NA scene, you can get like 10 or 11 teams. So
Mm.
all of a sudden going from 3 active teams to, oh yeah, well we're just gonna play it out. Let's add another. Let's
Yeah.
double that amount at least. Like that's crazy considering the amount of retired players that are just gonna come out and say, yeah, I'm in it for fun. Like why not?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I know for the previous qualifier, we had a lot of teams sign up for it that like didn't normally just play in either the Cash Cups or just like in ESCA, DCL, or South African League or stuff like that. So I'm hoping it happens again.
Right. Okay.
Well, there were 4 teams for the last 3 Cash Cups and 4 of the last 5 in South Africa. So if you get 8, that's literally double the
Yeah.
signups. So I'm trying to look
Yeah.
at who you had 6 teams in the qualifier for the South African Cash Cup actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
But this time we're trying really hard to. I know, I mean, like on Twitter, I usually DM a lot of the girls, ask them if they want to play with each other, if they want to make teams and stuff. So I'm hoping we can see a lot more this qualifier.
Very tight bunch. Then you're just trying to keep everything going, keep the not necessarily keep the lights on, but like keep the spirits up in terms of trying to get players to have some fun, because that's all it is, right? Is them coming out to just have some fun. It's not even necessarily earning the cash prize. It's just kind of let's keep the scene going and keep the players who want to be active going and bring in some retired
exactly.
ones. That's cool though. That's awesome. I mean, that's exactly what you want. Really, is you want that outreach. You want that ability to go, yeah, hey, we got a cash cup, guys. They're trying to give us money. You want to come play?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a question we answered we asked each other last week that I want to ask you actually, Megs, and that is like for 2023. Again, assuming that we're getting an impact circuit, what for regions like South Africa, Oceania, it's kind of really hard because there's really one team, but and Asia's just there's so much unknown about Asia. Like we all know about HSG. Every once in a while in these Cash Cups, we see a team that we've not seen before. And it's like, oh, where have these guys been? And then they're like, oh, I can't wait to hope they're back in 2 weeks. And then you never hear from them again. But in a region that's trying to go, and generally like Counter-Strike in South Africa is growing. Like I don't think that's I don't think that can be denied. But what would help grow the women's game in 2023? Would it be more money for the prize pool or for the Cash Cups? Would it be a league like Impact all of its own? Is that sustainable? But what would help grow the scene, the women's game specifically, in 2023 for South Africa?
It's kind of tough because I don't think like the amount of tournaments that we have here is really the issue, because the Cash Cups is pretty much enough to keep us going. It's just the mentality of some of the South African female CSGO players are like, okay, there's the top three teams like us, Vibin, and WRA. We can't beat them, so like there's no point in us playing. So I feel like we just need to change that mentality to like everyone just sign up, play for fun, just grow the community. Even if you don't win, like it's still the experience. You practice, you meet more people. It's just, yeah, I'm not really sure how to grow the scene. It's gonna be tough, but I really think we can do it and start involving more South African CS into international tournaments.
do you think you could get one group of ESL Impact Like, let's say season 3 comes around and they're like, okay, we can't give you a Group A and a Group B, but we can give you at least a Group A. Do you think you could fill out a 4-team league or maybe a 6-team league that has playoffs to get you into the LAN event? Like, do you think that'd be a good idea?
I think definitely next year, if the wildcards we have now, if it's more consistent and like a guaranteed thing for all the events that all the other females play in, I feel the females here will start to realize like, okay, if we work hard and we can beat them, we can also get a spot on that. Because this is like the first year that we actually like have a spot in these tournaments. So I don't think a lot of people are like expecting it to carry on. So if it's more consistent, then the teams that sign up will also be more consistent.
That's a good point because like Valencia, obviously there was no spot.
Yeah.
It was just for South Africa at all. But then you had to qualify for season 1, so it's like you had one big LAN. Now you get a second, right? And there's definitely enough in the region in terms of the player base, the teams, to warrant having a spot for all the LANs, like at least in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
I thought I can't remember what you said, Parks, actually, and it's weird because I did actually go back and watch the whole episode through, and my boomer brain is so shot I still can't remember. But I said I think the Cash Cup prize pool should be increased to 1,000 because I think it's 500 right now. If I
Yeah,
remember correctly. And
it's not a lot
that's like for a 5-hour tournament that you all just played. That's not really,
enough.
I think, enough. Like to
I mean,
warrant the time, like the investment of the
yeah,
time.
it makes sense. But then again, in our currency, the amount of dollars to us is already quite a big number of money. So
Oh, right. That's a
Really?
good point. Yeah, because
That is a
USD
good
to
Yeah.
point,
South
actually.
African is a bit different.
To the
yeah,
rand, right? It's the rand you guys
yeah.
got. So,
Financer Benny on the
yeah.
case here. Oh, fact
So
checking the
the
numbers.
team, the team would win at the current rate, obviously. October 8th, the day that this is recording. The rand, it would be 6,300 rands, and then you split that. What does the coach actually get paid, or does the money get split amongst just the 5 players? That I've never understood the answer to that.
I mean, it depends on like your org.
Okay.
You kind of just like what do you call it? You make an agreement with them to discuss like what the split of each, like the coach, the org, the players, and stuff. So
That's true. Yeah.
it's kind of different between all the teams.
I just didn't know. I guess my point was like, I didn't know if the money, like when ESL, I'm going to speak from an area of complete ignorance because I literally don't know. So forgive me, but I didn't know if it's something where it's like when I look at it and say, oh, $500, let's say for first place, right? Even though that's the total prize, but just bear with me. It makes the math easy. I don't know if it's one of those things where it's like that 500 gets split 5 ways, and then the org takes a cut of that from the players. Like if it's say 10%, the New York's taking $10, the players get 90, or if it's the prize money's divided 6 ways because you have to factor in the coach, and then the org takes the money out of that. The shares of the players. I never knew. Like I just didn't know if the coach was actually factored into the division of the prize money amongst the teams, or if it's just something where the org's like, hey, sorry, you're not getting any prize money, but we'll pay you a salary. Like, you know what I mean?
That
It could be something like that. Like,
I don't think I've ever
I
heard
don't
of
know.
something like that in terms of team stuff. I'd have to ask Matt just to see what he says, but that was an interesting one.
Before Meg totally chimes in and proves me to be an idiot. I would imagine lower like advanced teams for North America, for example, might have something in place where you have a coach and he might be salaried, but he gets absolutely no cut of any prize money because of the smaller nature of the organization, right? Because usually those orgs on tighter budgets anyway. So I don't know, Megs, if you have anything to add to my ramblings.
I think one thing I've noticed because like I used to be like very involved with everyone because just to make sure everything's just still rolling in the scene and stuff. What I've heard is people don't usually give their coach like a cut of the prize money, but I personally feel like the coach should get pretty much the same cut as the players because he does the same amount of work, not like more actually, to
Yeah.
help us improve and stuff. So he definitely deserves the same cut as what the players are getting.
That was always my mindset too. Like as well, because I look at coaches like the one that always comes to mind is Viridian City on how already worked with MindFreak, and I'm like, dude, the amount of work he put in as a coach, like to not get a cut of the product, to not be paid in the same like kind of set. I'm not saying he was or wasn't. By the way, I have no idea what the situation at MindFreak was. I'm just saying I know some coaches that aren't paid in that same frame that the players are paid in, where they get a cut of the prize pool. You know what I mean, and things like that. Where it's like to me that would be nuts. But then also I look at advanced, teams or main teams that have a coach that are signed to an organization, and I'm like, is that organization really big enough and financially stable enough to warrant handing out much of its prize money? You know what I mean? I guess that's why the professional players, like the org is taking 5% of prize money, and then as you move down and you're into like main, the org's taking like 15%. But I don't know. I've never played the game professionally, so everything's speculative from my point of view. I have no information. It's all speculative.
Here's what I think. Also, I've never actually been a pro or anywhere remotely high enough into the scene to actually understand anything. All my claims are baseless, but I think I'm right.
Listen,
Benny and
you gotta stop calling people out on this podcast. I'm starting a mutiny. Okay, I'm starting a freaking mutiny.
I came for violence, Benny. I came for violence.
I came from Philadelphia. Don't think I have either. I'll just see. But we're looking forward to that South African not cash cup, the qualifier.
So,
how are your team preparing for it, Megs? I know obviously you're still competing in things like you had ESEA intermediate and you had the recent cash cup, but is there anything that's changed in preparation for this qualifier coming up?
I think like a few weeks ago, probably a few months ago, we really were like, okay, because the first qualifiers we lost, and with these qualifiers we were like, okay, this time we are not going to lose. We're going to work our asses off, do everything we can, get coaches in, get analysts in, practice more hours than we've ever practiced before. There was one time where, obviously due to load shedding again, we were practicing like 7 days a week, pretty much, to get in the most time that we can. And yeah, it's pretty much just more scrims, more demos, the basic stuff, but just in like more, wow, I forgot how to speak English, like a more detailed way. So yeah, that's pretty much the only changes we've made.
Now, how severe has the load shedding been recently? Like, I know in South Africa it's a huge problem where the electrical grid can't really keep up with the demand in the country, so that leads to issues where people are using batteries and generators to survive, essentially, on the hours that the grid can't contain them, which is great from an electrical perspective, because I've studied electrically. I'm an electrical technologist, so hearing about the load shedding in South Africa is like, oh great, this is going to happen to the rest of the world soon, because nobody understands it, but here we go. How bad has it been recently?
It has gotten, there's only every few months where it gets to like stage 4 and stage 5 where the power's off for like 10 plus hours a day, and it's really making it literally impossible to do anything gaming related in this country for the past, I'd say the past month, I think, because the power is always off at nighttime when it's like the only time we can practice, because people have work and families and stuff like that. So
right.
Is it like cyclical in the sense that like it happens more in the summer versus the winter versus the, you know what I mean? Is it cyclical like that?
I don't think so. It just depends on how stupid our government gets. So
I love it.
That sounds like
I'm totally in agreement. Like I from an outsider looking in, I'm like, why don't you just guys why don't they just spend more on infrastructure? Like, not to get into the, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, come on, guys, please. I don't know if I couldn't name you another country that has this issue. That's the only problem. Like,
I think
that's
there was
what
issues in California recently, and I know Ontario is starting to have issues as well. But
did you just call California and Ontario countries?
No, but they're
Okay.
very large provinces. They're very large states and provinces in their respective countries.
If you talk to a Californian, they'll probably try.
They'll
to
probably,
you
yeah, they probably will try and convince you they're their own country. That's
but okay,
like I said, I'm clued into the power side of this thing.
That, okay,
there's a thing. No, there's a huge thing with power. I've kept up. I have to keep up with it because it's part of my job to understand the electrical side of things. and they recently just kind of re-upped one of our nuclear power plants that was supposed to be decommissioned in the next few years. They're saying, well, what if you refurbished it because there's a lot of power constraints now, and all of a sudden they need that base load to continue to be strong. So that's don't build a nuclear power plant in South Africa, but like that's all I'm
I
saying.
do not trust our government with anything that can kill us.
No.
Do you know what this means, Megs? It means
What?
because he's becoming an electrical engineer or whatever, right? Anytime there's load shedding, we now get to blame it on Parks.
Yeah.
We're just gonna reference this episode.
Yep.
We're gonna blame it on Parks.
Yeah, it's my fault, guys. Sorry, I clicked the button too long.
Yeah.
I left the lights on in the office.
Most casters have a start game button. He has a load shedding button.
Yes, the turn the power off button. Wow.
Yeah. I've killed many a match with forfeit wins just by hitting a button.
I think the worst part about all of this as well is like the solar batteries and stuff that we need to have power is pretty much, if you're not like rich, it is pretty much unaffordable. So the average people that play CS and compete in these tournaments and leagues, like there's not really a way to like counter the load shedding to still play and stuff.
So is there not like a basic consumer? This is a really random question for a podcast, but there's not like a really like basic consumer solar option that's purchasable, like kind of like a Tesla does with their homes or things like that?
I think you're expecting way too much from my country.
Okay, look, I don't know. I'm just trying to get insight.
Solar panels worldwide are very expensive to put up.
Well, yeah,
good over time, but no. The answer is no.
In the U.S., you could buy some, and you know what I mean. Like they're expensive, but they're not like you don't have to take a mortgage out to afford them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Way, so.
Well, yeah, you pretty much do need to.
Yeah,
it's very expensive. Yeah.
I mean, we look at the U.S. dollar to rand, and you automatically know it's already it's screwed. So yeah. Do you guys do batteries or anything other side? Like, do you have a generator in your house so you can keep like the fridge, for example, the fridge running during the night when everything else is shut off? Or
I personally have the solar panels and shit, so we can use that. But majority of my teammates don't really have. We have like UPSs, but that only keeps your computer on for like maybe like 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
Right.
So
yeah,
there's not really. It's kind of GG go next.
That's rough. That's so bad. I remember the conversation they had in the GG for All Discord. It was like, hey, we have a cash cup this weekend, but it's stage 6 load shedding. And the one you could tell the admin had no idea anything about it before, because he's like, how long does that last? And I'm like, just push the cash cup, please. Just push it, like.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a really bad time in load shedding.
Yeah. So
would ATK? Oh, sorry.
Good.
No, I was gonna say, would like ATK or other large organizations, is there any kind of idea for them to make like a LAN center that you guys can use? And so that way it's all kind of, you're all together, all 5 of you would be together in one spot, and then the load shedding, it wouldn't affect you as much because the power, they hopefully have some infrastructure wise in the building itself that it would be its own, like, would that be an idea, or is it still just because there's no money in it right now, at least in terms of a league or in terms of the amount of cash cups that happen? Is it just you gotta stay at home and deal with it?
ATK Arena does have a what do you call it? Like a LAN center in Cape Town. So usually if you just contact ATK and you say like, yo, can I use your place to play like this in this tournament? You can go there and play because they have generators and stuff there. But for us, if we want to play in Cash Club, like sure, all of us live like all over South Africa. So all of us can fly to Cape Town, play there. But then again, since we're like only 3 teams and the other 2 teams have load shedding, there's not really any point in going through all that effort.
Right.
Yeah.
But you could, there is at least some kind of infrastructure there. So if something ever happened, you could even have all the female teams in South Africa like fly to Cape Town, go and play at the ATK Arena and have essentially a LAN for a cash cup. That would be cool.
Yeah, that's what we did for that Girl Gamer LAN. We had it at the ATK Arena.
Cool. All right.
I don't want to get into that mess.
I got to speak to a federation about it, Benny.
I don't even get me fucking started. I don't even. I'm not even playing, and I'm like, don't get me started. And Megs is here. I don't even. Oh God, I'm so traumatized.
A lot of Twitter arguments.
Oh yeah.
So many chalked lands. Like around that time that land happened, Ping and I went to a land in Toronto that was just absolutely chalked as well. That was not a good time for. There's an unreleased video of us vlogging our time there. It's great. It's such good content. But yeah, man, that whole mess of a tournament. Knowing what I know now and how like last minute it was put together, it's incredible that some teams actually managed to still do a qualifier, and like some federations are like, yeah, we're good to do this. Like, it blows my mind that it was literally like, hey, you have 2 weeks to figure all this shit out. Good luck. Like, it was great.
I look. I went in on them as hard as I could on the Twitter Spaces, and that wasn't even as hard as I could. But I will say this: it was one of these things where it was like what was it? Oh, they were tweeting, and it's like, oh, you could find more information about him here, and they send me the tweet, and it's like second to last week of September, and it's an article from February, and I'm like, how do I even know if this is still accurate? Like what do you sent me an article from February that points to a website that hasn't been updated in 3 years. Like what are you doing? What are you actually doing? I can't fathom it. I just can't fathom it. But I look, I don't want to sound negative all the time, right? Despite the fact that my Twitter might actually
your Twitter's very
portray that.
all
But
the time.
it's I'm appreciative of organizations that come into the space that try to grow the space, like a Girl Gamer Pro Festival. I am very upset at the fact that they've been doing this for as long as they have, and the quality has never seemed to improve. That think is the big point. Is that the Dubai land was great. It was awesome to see the teams there. That was back in 2019. There was a crap ton of production issues. I don't know if anybody remembered that tournament. We're talking like static over the headphones. We're talking like, when you ever have your mic like half plugged in and it sounds like you're literally in the middle of a toaster trying to commentate. It was like that. And then there was somewhere like one commentator's mic would completely turn off. And so I think Athena worked that land actually, who's now playing Valorant for TSM. And she would like throw it to her commentator and you just wouldn't hear anything. And Athena would be like, I agree. And you'd be like, with what? I don't even know what's going on. Like it was just a mess. And it's like, you've come from that. And then you've had I heard, Megs, you might be able to shine light, but I heard that the tournament in South Africa wasn't particularly cleanly run. It wasn't the best, I should say, that it could have been or should have been. I know there were arguments on Twitter about the rule books because everyone's like, "Oh, we're just using the standard ESL rule book," and I'm like, "Well, did you explain that? Like, maybe have a copy of that rule book on the website? Like, has anyone heard the copy paste function? Open Word, copy paste." But and then on top of that, you have this IESF mess. I'm appreciative for what they're trying to do, but it's like, guys, you've had 3 years to figure this out. Like, and you had a pandemic, so you've literally had longer to sit down and like Zoom over some brainstorming sessions and say, hey, how can we improve this our mission? And it's just been an absolute mess every step of the way. The only thing that seems to be run right was that Romania land, but that was for League of Legends and only League of Legends. So I don't know if you can shed light on what it was like in the Cape Town Festival, Megs, on how that was run.
Once again,
just
the tournament was kind of scuffed due to load shedding again.
That's right.
We played till like I think 4 a.m. the one night because we just had to wait for the power to go off and come back on and stuff like that. But apart from the what's IESF, I think they were the ones that like hosted the whole thing. That was a bit also scuffed. But ATK Arena that hosted the LAN itself, it was really like I forgot how to speak English. Really
good.
What's the word? Like good? Yeah.
Not pose?
It was really good.
Not pose. Right?
Yeah.
Is that how you even pronounce it? I don't even know. I see
What?
pose. I see you all calling each other pose. I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't even.
Yeah.
What does that even
I'm
mean?
totally out of the loop on this.
I see all the South African Twitters, all the players tweeting at each other like, "Come train, you po," and I'm like, what is going? What does that mean? I'm like, am I a boomer here?
No, you're just out of
It's
the.
very, very bad South African word. I don't recommend this.
I'm just saying it very nonchalantly. Oh God, forgive me. It's not. I'm not going to be canceled for
We
this.
need a
am I?
new.
I'm
We
No,
need
no,
a
no.
new. We need a
Okay.
new section of the podcast. It's just Benny learns slang from different areas of the world that he casts. Very pose of you,
Oh
Benny.
God, no wonder Meg's cracking up. She's like, "What is this guy has like, no idea what he's talking about," and he's just, "Oh my word."
Dude,
He's
South
like-
Africans love that word.
What? I have no idea what it means. I'm like, I've never heard it before. I'm like,
It means the direct translation is vagina.
I was gonna say if it's comparable to the C word that like British just use
Yeah.
left and right. You know
You're
what I
good
mean?
then.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it pretty
okay.
much is the
Set.
same.
You're set.
Okay. What an awkward segment that's
Oh,
gonna be. It's like that is just
great.
God.
That's great.
Okay.
That's perfect. That's my takeaway from this entire thing. Load shedding and pose. I'm set. I'm set.
Oh God. Okay.
I love
All
that.
right. I can't even. Okay. Well, there is one other. I guess pivoting, trying to pivot at least,
Trying to
trying to
pivot.
segue. There is one other qualifier. Actually, that's going to be a spot for the Yokaping land, and it is Asia. We do have to touch on them for a little bit here. Um, I I don't really know what to expect. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm looking back at, I can't even look back at like season one because they didn't have a spot in season one,
Nope.
right? So like the Oceanic qualifier for the Valencia land, for the Dallas land, beg your pardon, was two teams, X8 Ballers and Mind Freak. Hell of a series, by the way. But the Asian qualifier is also next weekend. And based on like the cash cups, I really don't know. I have no clue what's going on with this region. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. And I don't think a lot of people do because the first two cash cups we ever got back in January, we had 7 teams. And I was like, this is awesome. Where have all these teams come? Look at all these women playing Counter-Strike in Asia, you know? And we had one that was 4. Everybody else has been 2 or 3. We've had 3 cash cups canceled because there haven't been enough signups. So, and one cash cup was a walkover because only one team signed up. So, I honestly have no clue what to expect. I think we're going to get like 3 or 4 teams. The interesting thing that I wanted to say is that I believe it was the Cash Cup. I'm trying to find it actually. Oh yeah. So HSG played Black Cat, and then they also played Halo Queen, right? And those were the 2 teams they played in the recent Cash Cups. And Halo Queen got 9 rounds on Inferno. Black Cat got 11 on Vertigo. It's actually kind of a close Vertigo. It wasn't until the very end where HSG got those last like 5 rounds in a row to run up to 16. So it's like, okay, close game. 16-1 on the second map, of course. But I don't see. First off, I'm concerned with the number of teams we're going to get signing up. But then second off, I don't see anybody beating HSG. They just look so good.
Wasn't Tyloo also like the Tyloo females? Weren't they also a big name in the Asia CS scene? I don't
They
see them playing at all.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. Like they were, and I don't see anywhere. But then again, like where is? I mean, even if you look at like the tier 1 scene, like I know that there's a challenger league, I think, for Asia, for ESL, but it's like where have all the teams gone? Because I remember like in the majors, you had like Tyloo and Vici, and you had a few others trying to like Tiger Esports or whatever. Although I know there was a big cloud of controversy around them for the Boston major going way back. But then it's like, where have those teams gone? I know Tyloo's still around, but I don't know. I haven't seen Vici. I haven't seen anybody. So I don't know what we're going to get for the Asian Cup. It's literally going to be a mystery until it happens.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things with Valorant when it came out was a lot of the like I know the Korean scene died before Valorant came out.
You mean for Counter-Strike, right?
Yeah, for Counter-Strike, the Korean scene died out. Like there was actually I don't think it was necessarily an article, but I know there was a Korean team that made it to back when it was just the closed qualifiers to get into
You're
um
probably thinking of MVP PK.
yeah, it would have been MVP PK, and they had like two 30-year-old players on there, and I think it was the casters mentioning like, yeah, these are the last like 5 guys that are playing in Korea competitively at any sort of level at this level. Like they don't, there's not really another Korean team that plays. There's maybe a few individuals, but none of them are on a serious team or anything like that. So it's always been kind of weird with the Asian scene in terms of just getting players out onto ESCA. A lot of that probably falls down to them playing on Perfect World, and I don't know what the balance is with that. We don't know. It's just a big cloud, right? It's always been just a big cloud of where are they, and if it's gonna be 3 or 4 teams, it's gonna be a small qualifier, but at least one of them will get to go. We'll get some kind of talking, like people who are in Sweden will get to talk to them, hang out with them, and maybe that kind of comes back to them coming back and going, "Hey guys, this is actually pretty cool. We should find more players." But it's never ever that easy.
But before I bring you in, Megs, I just want to say I really hope that you guys make the Yokaping land because HSG are probably winning this qualifier. Like 99% chance they win this qualifier. And I don't know if you've met Ramona, who's GFI as they're used to.
Oh yeah,
100%
yeah.
say hi. Like an absolute like veteran of this Counter Strike scene, GFI. So I'm looking forward to. I really want them to win the Asia land because it's like I want to see her at land again. You know what I mean? And I think she's not to call her out. Please forgive me, God help. But I think she's like 33. So it's like how much longer is she going to be continues? Yeah, she is 33 actually. So how much longer is GFI going to play the game? Right, is the question. So to be able to see her potentially at another land, I think is fantastic. The last land that she was at was as with under a team called Orange Sphinx Esports before she signed with Tyloo because she had a stint with Tyloo. So before she signed with Tyloo, she was part of this Orange Sphinx Esports, which I think is more native to Malaysia, where she's from. And they made that was the uh, DreamHack Showdown Valencia, like the actual Valencia land back in 2019. So it's been a while since she's been in international land, a long time. So I think it's great, but I feel like it's tough. And what I actually wanted to ask you about is I look at the Asian teams, and even as dominant as HSG has been, right? They've won more cash cups than any other team in the world. As dominant they have been, the style of play, looking at them, you can kind of see that they're going to probably struggle on the international stage, right? Your region has the benefit of being a budding region, right? I know there's obviously we talked about the issues previously, but at least that the game is growing very much in South Africa. What what can be done to help regions where it seems like the game is really falling off in Asia and Oceania?
Um, it's kind of a tough question. Um, I'm not
More,
really sure how to.
I was gonna say more specifically, you could look at Oceania if you want, because Asia, obviously, with the whole perfect world thing, it's just that that region has always been an enigma. But Oceania is more set up like South Africa and North America and Europe are. So, like, what can we do to help grow the game there?
I feel like they also don't really get like consistent qualifier spots for lands and tournaments and stuff like that. So I think once again it's just like the fact of including them more consistently, then more teams will come out of retirement and start playing again and being like, okay, maybe if we put a lot of time into this game, we can actually like get something out of it again instead of just playing for no wildcard spots or anything like that.
I know that was a big reason why I can't remember if it was B Beyond, but somebody from Mindfreak, it might have been Connie actually from X8 Ballers when she retired. Said like that's why everybody broke up in Oceania after Valencia because it was like everybody broke up kind of after Impact League Season 1 because there was no qualifier coming the rest of the year, and then Mindfreak beat North America, so
Yeah, that
just the
was.
entire continent just over the entire continent, but just and then what do you call it? After Valencia, it's like well they don't have a qualifier for they're done for the year,
Yeah,
so they kind of and the players who
Yeah.
wanted to keep playing have merged into Newt Newt. So it was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, but yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I just didn't know if you had any
I
any
almost
other.
wonder if like seasonal teams are going to become a thing in the regions that are smaller, just because like, hey,
God, I hope not.
I don't either. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, hey, our off season is 10 months, but these 2 months, like, we have a qualifier, a big qualifier. You're gonna go to a LAN, and that's it. And we'll see next year when the next big thing. I don't want that to happen, by the way. I'm just saying that might realistically become a thing in Oceania where you kind of just casually play with some of your friends, but you don't spend the vast amount of time practicing. And then you all of a sudden you're on and you're going. It's, you know, put in your 2 weeks of your job kind of thing. This is all we're doing for the rest of our 2 months.
Real quick, because how are we doing with time, Parks?
It's about an hour now, so
Okay. So we're gonna wrap it up, but before I go, I have a actually really interesting question that came to mind, Megs. Um, how did South Africa as a scene deal with the introduction of Valorant, and how much has that affected the women's scene in South America in South Africa? Because we talk about like the effects it had in North America, where everybody went missing, right, except CLG, and now with the Impact League, they're coming back. They had the same issue in Oceania. A lot of those players that quit CS are playing Valorant now, actually, and there's quite a few women's teams playing Valorant. But how did it affect the South African scene? Because that's the region that we never really have a lot of insight with in terms of the Valorant side or the CS side in terms of the impact Valorant had.
Um, it didn't really have an effect like at all because once again we don't have servers for Valorant, so no one really bothered to go to the game and make it like an actual like career in an esports career. So if you really want to like do something in esports, it's pretty much just CS:GO at the moment. But I know when CS died out in South Africa, like there were no cash cups, no qualifiers for big tournaments. It was just us practicing for ESEA leagues and our South African leagues. I know me and Connie, my IGL in my current team, we left for Valorant and made, I think, one of the first Valorant teams in South Africa, but it's kind of pointless when you don't have servers or like any inclusivity in the game at all.
I didn't realize y'all didn't even have servers for the game down there.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like playing EU Faceit with 180 to 200 ping.
It's like Cow Day.
just swing wide.
Just say it like that. It's like Cow Day.
Yeah.
Period. So, you know, but no, yeah, that's I didn't even realize that. So
You've
you
had
say
servers in CS for a while though, right? Like that's not like a newer development. I know we had like JT and
Yeah.
Fady, those guys for a while, and JT's been in NA for quite a few years now. But I
well,
don't know when they got the servers for South Africa.
they used to be
No, we've
they used to be
definitely
rented.
had. Yeah. It weren't like, I don't think it were like official game servers, but more people hosting their own servers from their
Right.
own like computers and stuff like that.
Well, I say it used to be rented because like ESEA, I think in 2020 they got the servers. I want to say, or it might have been
Yeah.
2021.
I remember there
actually.
was an announcement about it because they were really happy they had the Middle Eastern ones as well. That kind of
Yeah.
tied into that.
And the reason is because if you go back to those old games, like when I first started commentating South African Counter-Strike, down at the bottom where it says ESEA, you know how that you get that watermark?
Yeah.
It used to say ESEA on the right it used to say RSA Web. So they weren't ESEA servers. ESEA were
Right.
renting the servers from a host at South Africa, and then the ESEA was just like this region's growing enough we could just afford we're just going to buy our own servers in there.
Right.
So, which I think is a big step. It's great. I think aside from all the latency issues and whatnot, it's a big step for growing the scene. So, and now South Africa is my favorite region because they don't even have Valorant servers. So, you said that
Your
real
hate
quick.
for Valorant goes
it
everywhere,
runs
Benny.
blood deep. Man.
Yeah.
The real quick, you said just an interesting question. Not really CS related, but you said if you want to do anything esports related, you're playing CS. What about League of Legends? Is League of Legends big down there?
Not at all. I know there's this one org named Athena, I think, that recently hosted a League of Legends female tournament. And I think it was just 4 teams. Okay, well, it's pretty much the same as CS, but but like those games definitely don't have as okay. It might have a big player base, but not like a big competitive and like tournament player base, if that makes sense.
It does, because I think the average statistic that came out for like the number of players who play CS who are into the competitive scene, whether playing or watching the game, is like 20% of the player base. Whereas in League of Legends, it's like 2 to 3. It's
Mm.
such a smaller like portion of the
Yeah.
player base that's actually in
Yeah.
the esports side. So that makes sense. All right. Well, any other questions you want to ask Parks, or should we move into our what are we watching?
I think we're into the what are we watching. Benny, we'll start
Okay.
off with you this time because I went first last time. What are you watching? What are you casting in the next few weeks here?
I am watching W7M Black Dragons. That is going to be a firework of a series in South America, and it's winning. You're in. You have to win to get in. If you don't win, there's no way you can make playoffs. So, that those teams are usually extremely competitive, and there's no way I'm missing that. That is one I'm definitely going to be watching. The only way I miss is if it's on the mainstream. That's it.
There you go. What are you up to, Megs? What's happening in Down Under? Even though it's not really Down Under. Down Under's Australia, but
Well, we're just playing the qualifiers coming up, and I am very, very excited to see who will make it for the playoffs and to like actually go to land in the EU region specifically, actually.
oh, an EU watcher. Even though it's we berated you for it being in your time zone.
Yeah.
You're still not watching it. Yeah.
That's my fault, right? That was my fault. Okay, I'm sorry. Mea culpa. Okay, but no, I agree. We need Megs back at land.
Yeah,
We need Megs in Sweden.
We need Megs in Sweden. I would love to watch a vlog of Megs in Sweden. I think that would just be extremely entertaining of her just like running around collecting
All I know is you have had your Twitter profile picture for a while. It is a fantastic picture that you got.
I love that picture.
I love that picture.
It explains my personality. With the chicken on my head.
Yeah.
Is it the chicken? I thought it was the bald eagle.
It's a bald
Well,
eagle.
whatever, same thing. Bird is a bird, man.
I'm like, yeah, because I was gonna say you got it when you came to the Dallas land, I'm pretty sure. But
Yeah.
we need a new Twitter profile picture, okay? We need one for
We do.
Sweden.
Bald
Definitely
eagle,
go rocket.
bald eagle in Sweden.
Bald eagle needs to return in Sweden. Yeah, that'd be great. But Parks, what are you watching this week?
Ooh. Well, I'm probably gonna be watching Megs and her team hopefully win in the qualifier. So that's probably gonna be my big thing. I usually watch a lot of NA, but if it's not really that big of a deal, if it's a dead rubber week, then I'll keep an eye on it, but I won't actively watch it. So we'll keep an eye, but it's mostly gonna be focusing on South Africa qualifiers here, I think.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, that's episode 2. Megs, thank you so much for joining us. It's
really
been
appreciate
fantastic to have you on. Definitely follow her on Twitter, by the way. She's got great Twitter game.
She does.
It's
really good.
She's like the Mimi almost of the CS scene. So I don't know if you know a Evil Cat Mimi, the commentator.
Yeah.
Like, her Twitter game's unreal. Like Vincent said this to me. I'm like, dude,
True.
it's so good. The Megs is the CS version. So definitely give her a follow. And we'll see you back here in Fortnite's time for episode 3. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.